rigor, relevance, and relationship. I pose to you this morning to think of it in the reverse. Relationship, relevance, and rigor. If we develop that relationship, we'll know what is relevant to those students, and together we can engage with them to get at the rigor. And I think that's beginning to come out in a lot of research. Sam has a few things that he would like to share, specific examples in the math area related to these broad categories.
All right, these are some examples of things that we did. Some are very similar to presentation. We had mini lessons. Our mini lessons were used in our computer lab, where the teacher would work directly with that student on what skills they were ready to learn. So she would do that at least about 3 or 4 groups a day on those particular SWD kids. And highly qualified teachers, that's when I put that up there. I mean, if in our building, if we hired a special ed teacher, our principal, she made sure that that teacher was not only special ed certified, but math certified. Because if that teacher had to teach a resource class, she wanted to make sure that that person, that class was not getting a watered down curriculum. So that was really important with her. And we had, oh yeah, I didn't put up that, but we had vertical teaming as well, which is a thing that my principal started doing last year as well. When she would meet with the elementary schools, she would make sure that the elementary schools, they were doing pretty much the same type of things that we were doing in our school. So as our kids was coming up and they were used to things that we were already doing. And our computer assisted instruction, I'll talk about that later when we talk. That was our intervention that we used to help our kids bridge that gap. And we had EOT. We used our EOT time to work on our SWD kids, to work on their Tier 4 progress monitoring. That's when we actually worked on their goals and objectives using, we use graph to work on giving probes and interventions. And we use CRA. We use that within our Alex lab. We used those two in conjunction because research shows that computer assist, CAI and CRA together, that's when you're gonna get the most improvement. Like some people told me they use Alex and they don't get that success. I said, well, because you can't just use Alex alone. You have to add it, put it all together. And we had Beyond the Bell. That's when we had some mentors coming in after school to work with those target kids. And I mentioned earlier we had our Team 51. I told we were about 37%. And our goal was to get to 43%. So we ended up this past year close to 70% us in that group. And that was the first time we made AYP in a long time. And we no longer have Mr. Dakotas at our school anymore. He was our school improvement specialist for a couple of years. And this year I spoke to my principal as well this year, and she said she's over 60% this year, and this without retake. So still doing well. And I had some more. Oh, here's some other things we did. Oh yeah, we did standard-based grading. That was something we did that in our math. We did standard-based grading for all our math kids. They didn't get a normal grade. They got a standard-based grading rubric. I'll show that to you later on. And we did student-led IEP, student-led conferences. We had student advisory where the kids would come in homeroom and they'll go through their scores. They know exactly what I made on CRTT last year and what I need to make this year and why I didn't make it and what I'm gonna do better this year. So we did that with them. And we had CFAs. We did that 6 times a year. And they would make those CFAs in our collaborative planning session because our principal like us to do our CFAs before we actually do the instruction. So we know exactly what we should be covering in that. And we had data talks. That was, we did that after we had CFAs. That's where our principal would sit down with each grade, each team, and look at what went wrong on the CFA, what we need to tweak, what we can do better. And our Tier 4 progress monitoring, that's what I talked about earlier. That was our special ed kids that we target. What were their weaknesses? What prevented them from really, I guess, succeeding in the regular classroom. So we worked on their goals and objectives at that time. Okay.
Okay, what we've been talking about is instructional design, instructional delivery equals effective teaching. And instructional design is when a teacher really engages the class through demonstrations and multiple means of representing the material. The student is engaged in multiple means of demonstrating understanding of the material, and that gets at effective teaching. We've all read things about assessment, and assessment is moving from assessment of learning. We used to do when we do at the end of the unit, we would give a test. Then we moved into assessment for learning, where we took some formative assessments and made changes in what we were doing in the classroom, to now assessment as learning is taking place in the classroom. Building in strategies in the classroom where the teacher gets feedback as instruction is going on, so when the students leave, she knows which ones are with her and which ones need some additional support. Sam, I think, has some more information with how they did that type of plan, do, check monitoring in their school with the math.
All right, before we, one thing that my principal did before we even started looking at our data, she actually had our teachers to complete this reflection sheet and ask them questions like, what are some students' observed weaknesses based on the data analyzed? What are we seeing a trend or some type of pattern or something of that effect? What are some possible causes for that weakness? So we would actually go through this, and we'll kind of look through and our data and kind of look at what do we need to target. So that's, and see if every teacher would fill out one of those. And from there, that was part of the plan part. So this is our little matrix that we would use. Plan, we would analyze the data, which we did. We look at the CRCC scores. We look at any type of assessment that we had. And from there, what are we going to do with all that, with that data? From there, we do our standard-based instruction. We have make sure our elements were posted in the classroom. We had our agenda posted. We used all available resources. We had an opening, closing within the classroom, and we integrated as much technology as we could, because we were a Title I school, so we had plenty of technology, and we actually had the teachers trained in that technology. And we were able to, we had a word wall. We had pretty much all out. We were doing a lot. So on the check part, how were we monitoring what we were doing? So with that, we had our daily monitoring of our student progress. We looked at exam. We looked at teachers doing teacher observation as far as class keys, and we looked at the CFAs. From there, we looked at data. We had the data talks. We looked at the e-walks, and we looked at our graph data, because we tested our kids on graph 4 times a year. So we had all that data, and from there, we get the ACT part. All right, this was our Team 51 progress monitoring. What we wanted to look at, when we had our data talk, if our Team 51 kids were not where they needed to be, we would actually, this was our goal. We would do. We would actually meet with those special ed teachers and general ed teachers and look at what we were doing and try to put things in place so those kids could be more successful.